All right. Well, welcome to everyone who is joined in our meeting and who may be watching future. My name is Will Nelson. I am the NorCal Development Officer as well as the West Coast Regional Development Group representative. I am pleased to be joined with, like always, Mr. David Hosley. Welcome, David.
Well, glad to be here with you and glad that we have a special guest.
Yes. And our special guest is Scott Griffin, a referee here in NorCal and one of our referee coaches. So, welcome, Scott. Scott, what would you like the audience in the group to know about you?
Thanks, Will. I've been a ref for over 10 years and was a player many years ago. And you might know me because if you've met me in a rugby setting, it's fairly likely that I've given you a coin. And that's because I'm kind of the coin guy. And it'd be a flip coin or maybe a coin from your favorite rugby nation. And if you haven't gotten a coin from me, the next time you see me, either call me, email me, or just hit me up on the spot and I'll have a coin for you.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Scott, because I feel like my pockets are a little light, and maybe the next time I see you, we'll have to trade a coin.
You got it.
Perfect. Um, Well, thank you so much for the introductions. So I think we'll go ahead and jump right into it. Tonight we have, I think, a really important topic, and that is how to have a plan for referee development. This is something that's not only important, I think, here at the local level. This is what we spend a lot of time in the regional development and in the high performance pathway is about really refining and building our plans and really structuring our thinking so at the end of the day, we can have success. So just as I think kind of a good way to set some norms and to really kind of understand um, maybe to frame our conversation is that maybe just acknowledging that refereeing can be really challenging. What we do is hard. Um, we can sometimes go out, try our best, and the players and coaches and fans may not appreciate what we do. Alternatively, we may go out, we may have a great session, we maybe get like a little money, some coins, have you. Um, and again, there's a lot of different factors that can influence our experience. And so, again, it's really important to understand why we referee and how we can maximize our success and enjoyment. So, one thing we talk a lot about, again, at the higher levels is internal success and external success. Like, what on an internal side, like, what do we personally find that drives us to maximize this, to want us to continue to pursue? As opposed to like an external reward, which may be like money or status. And I think one of the philosophies that we as referees should have is again to be able to control the controllables. So um, there's a lot of stuff in life that we can't handle, that we don't have influence over, and maybe we find that's really important. Um, but that we shouldn't really base our worth or our enjoyment or our, again, finite bit of time on that. And so, again, I think it's really important to, again, be able to distinguish internal versus external. And again, think about what does success look like for us in the season and how do we kind of continue to be sustainable in our referee careers. And again, how do we continue to grow and to be better? And so I think just with that framing again, just wanted to again set that maybe norm and again kind of acknowledge the different influences in that. And so getting on to a bit of kind of like the technical aspects of it, developing referee plans is again a really good way to organize uh, for yourself about ways in which you can find enjoyment, ways in which you can find success in the game, and maybe see how it can cross translate to something you're doing outside of refereeing and rugby as well. So with that, I think kind of just to start and to kind of point us in the direction we're going, I'll bring in David. Um, I think you're going to share some links in the chat. And if you wouldn't mind, just kind of talk a little bit about strategic planning.
So I think about strategic planning in the macro way. I actually taught strategic planning in the nonprofit environment at the Stanford Graduate School of Business a while ago. And when I was managing nonprofit organizations, I always felt that it was important for us to have not only a budget for the upcoming year, but a strategic plan as to how we were going to both make and spend that money. And so it's something that I really value. And I think it's great that we're talking about having a plan for your own self. So your plan could be just about your strategies that you're going to employ as advancing yourself as a referee, or you could have a broader strategy within rugby, or you could have a plan that encompasses your entire life, personal and professional. So you can take this as far as you want to. I actually start by setting priorities for the year, and I've done that for a number of years at the end of the year. And so here are my plans. Here are my priorities for this year. And there are only six of them. They're on this little piece of paper. And two of the six things that are priorities for me have to do with rugby and refereeing. Uh, the first of them that's relevant is that I want to be fit. And I think that's really important for a referee. You all have to pick the fitness level that you seek to achieve. We used to take tests to see how fit we were, called a beep test and other tests. And I don't know, Will, do you still take tests at the level that you're reffing?
Oh yeah. And so at the RGG camp, so the referee development group camp 2 weeks ago in New Orleans, we all ran a Bronco, and USA Rugby has released some standards as well as if you want to go to a national tournament, you have to hit certain standards as well. And so I think, again, fitness is a really important goal to have. Um, no matter where we are, whether or not we've hit our goal time yet. Again, I think it's always important to continuously work on it and improve and to continue to get that because uh, fitness and health is something that will impact you not only in rugby, but as an epidemiologist, so public health researcher, it really makes a difference in the quality and quantity of folks' life.
Yeah, you see that every day in your work, don't you?
Yes,
So
I do.
for me, fitness is my third priority, and rugby is my fifth priority out of the six of them. But I tend to not take tests on how fit I am, but I concentrate on effort. And I think at this point in my life, I know that if I get the work in, I'm going to have fitness as a positive result. And so, just to give you an example, I try to uh, exercise 6 days a week with one rest day. I combine stretching, which is important at my age to maintain your flexibility, uh, with aerobic exercises. And I do a combination of interval training. I'm lucky enough to live 3 blocks away from a university track. And so I can get out there on that nice track and I can walk on it. I can run on it, but I also like to do interval training because that's really good for refereeing where we're starting and stopping and have to be able to accelerate and get to the right place at the right time. And then I also live near a trail that happens to be 2 miles long. So it's really easy for me to walk the Arboretum and get in 4 miles. And if you're going 4 miles, you're exercising more than an hour each time you do that. So I'm doing it a little different in that I'm not looking so much at the results measured with a stopwatch, but I'm looking at effort with the idea that I know at this point, if I do that, I'm going to be in pretty good shape. And then I'm still out on the pitch. I've refereed 6 matches at the Golden Gate tournament at Treasure Island this month. And so if you can do 6 matches, you're probably fit enough to still be able to be on the pitch and be credible with your fitness level. Put in a larger context that Will talked about, good strategic plans make it clear what your priorities are, as I mentioned, um, but also a good plan has measures that can be expressed in a number. And so you want to think about your plan. How often are you going to do it? Um, how will you know when you're successful based on a number? The date by which you want to do that. And one of the interesting things about rugby refereeing is when I started as a referee, we were playing rugby starting in December and we wrapped up about April. And if we wanted to in the summertime, we would play touch, but we would do that just for fun and to keep in shape. I calculated now that the only month that I did not have the opportunity to referee last year was August. So we are now refereeing year round, and that requires you to be fit year round and this just not point to a straight 3 or 4 month season. So it's really changed quite a bit. I would say you're better off when planning for your ref advancement to probably have 3 or 4 goals. You can get overwhelmed if you have too many goals. And I would say try to focus on the goals that are both meaningful, achievable, and that you can measure in a number. There's no reason for you to say, I'm going to run a marathon if you haven't put the training in to be able to do it. So be sensible about that. And then in the general context, I have some goals. One of my goals is to see doctors less in 2026 than I did in 2025. I had knee surgery in September. I injured it last May at a rugby tournament. And so, I'm in a different position because of that injury than I was before that. Um, and I also had some skin cancer that was removed. So I don't want to see doctors this year to the extent that I saw doctors last year. Another thing that's a focus of my exercise is building core strength. And that was part of my rehab for my knee injury. But it's also something that as you age, having strong core really will be helpful to you. In terms of rugby refereeing goals, I had a handful of goals. One of them was I wanted to be able to AR at the collegiate level. It's something that's really fun to do. You get to work with some really good refs if you're AR at the collegiate level, including I've AR'd for well. So uh, that's something that I would like to do this year. And I'd like to still ref twice a month. That means that sometimes I'm ref coaching or coordinating referees. I'm not able to get out on the pitch, but I'd like to get out and do that a couple of times a month. And I'm happy to do my other duties that I enjoy as well of ref coaching and coordinating referees. So those are my goals. I think that they're few in number that I can keep track of them, um, and uh, and I think that it's important that I do have them. It kind of keeps me on task.
Sweet. So thank you so much for sharing all those, David. And so maybe Scott, before we bring you in to start getting to some of the tangible pieces, maybe we'll just pause here to see if anyone has questions about maybe why set goals, what we set goals about, or anything in that matter. All right. Well, seeing no questions, Scott, let's turn to you. Um, Scott, I know you have in advance shared your season goals with me, which I will bring up here in a second. Um, but do you want to just walk us through a little bit about how your process was to just goals and to think what was important for you?
Sure. Thanks, Will. Um, so I have been intermittently making goals throughout my life, prompted early on professionally by, some of my managers and so forth at work. And personally, sometimes I'd get jazzed, and at the beginning of a year, I'd, want to put a bunch of goals together about what I wanted to do personally and professionally. And then as it relates to rugby, I want to say it was maybe half a dozen years ago, either right before or right after the pandemic. Our group talked about goals. And so I said, yeah, let's put together some rugby goals. And I don't want to use too many slogans or sayings, but some of these things are important. And the one that came to me as I was thinking about goals was a professional motivational speaker who said, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. And so that kind of made sense to me. And the other one that made sense was if you fail to prepare, prepare to fail. And so a lot of the planning about what you're going to do, how you're going to spend your time, what your actions are going to be, will result or not result with success. And so I definitely spent some time on this. I think one of the important parts of putting goals together is that they are flexible, and you can go in there and tweak them every couple months, depending on whether they make sense or not, how things are going. Maybe you blew through a goal and you want to increase, you want to achieve more. Or maybe this goal is you thought it was achievable, but it really wasn't, and you want to dial it back a little bit. You can do that. You're the author here, which is pretty cool. So I broke my goals this year and in previous years as well down into three categories. One is the laws. The second part is fitness, and the third part is communication or rapport with players and coaches. So I'll tackle the first one first for laws. And I also, since I sent this to Dave and Will, I put /technology because, technology is going to be a big part of whatever we're going to be doing moving forward. And one of the subcategories of my laws piece was Advantage, the Advantage software. And so due to a bunch of technological limitations, we'll say that I haven't become familiar with Advantage yet, but I need to do that this year. I'm currently at 0% getting games in Advantage, and I need to get this year 25% of my games into Advantage. So that's a big goal for me. The second part of it is attending these trainings like the one that we're on right now and the USA Rugby, the nationwide ones that we have 90% of the time. And I currently attend about 75% of these. The next category I have here is communication and rapport. So I have that on the list that Will has up here. So why don't we tackle that next? I can't tell you how many times that I've walked off the field at the end of the game and one team is sort of okay with me and the other team totally hates me, right? And I think you can pick which one won the game and which one lost the game. And I've seen refs over the years, maybe I have a B-side game and this person has the A-side game. And what I've seen with some of the higher refs, the refs that have gotten better games, is that they have a good rapport, not all the time, but much of the time, with coaches and players, and particularly the players. The players see, a good ref gets most of the calls right, and they appreciate most of the time what the refs are trying to do, especially if they're well coached. And so I want to get there. And because after all, this is supposed to be a fun endeavor out here. We're out training ourselves and educating ourselves, and then we're out running around with these people. And it's despite the fact that we have to blow the whistle, during the game, it's supposed to be fun. And so what I've got here is that I want to shake hands with these players and coaches after the game and make contact. You have to watch your timing a little bit. And I've done this in the past. Sometimes you don't feel appropriate, not appropriate, but maybe comfortable. Maybe the game was too pitched or maybe you made a mistake towards the end of the game or something. But I can tell that since I put this on my goals sheet last year, I've gotten into these handshake lines at the end of games more often, and it's gone well. and a lot of times the players are glad to see you there. And so that's part of the communication and rapport process for me. It's not a popularity contest. I know that I'm setting myself up for failure if I think I'm going to please everyone. But certainly, I think this is a good, um, building those relationships. Knowing, I'll call the captains out by name during the game. I'll tell and I think that also helps build rapport. And so that's a big one for me. And
Hey,
then,
Scott, I would just like to interrupt to say that is a great goal for you to have. And I think that it's really important. I also write down the names of the captains when I'm doing the coin toss so that I can call them by name during the match. And then in youth rugby, we have the chance to go into the circle after the game is over, right? And that's where the captains from each team, they pick the outstanding players. And it really, I think, says a lot to those young people when the ref shows up and wants to witness their coming together after the game. So good on you.
thanks. And then the final part that I have is the fitness piece of this, and I've got a couple bullet points under here. Um, I wish I was as good as Dave on cardio, but I'm not. I only not including game days. I only run a couple times a day, excuse me, a week, and that's between 20 and 30 minutes usually. Um, I I have to put a better frequency um, gauge on getting into the weight room. I do get into the weight room. I work with weights, but it needs to become more consistent. But it's definitely a bullet point. And then finally, last year I put on my goals that I want to discover the Bronco drill. Bronco drill's been discovered, and I ran it for the first time. I had my son time me. I got 5:42, and I know that can be improved. That's kind of like running a 7-minute mile, I think. And so, although it's not bad, 7 minutes not bad, but I know I can do better. And so, I have another excuse though. It was during the holidays that I ran that 5:42. So, uh, I can give myself a little grace on that. So, and that's it. I like to think I have a short, clean, and concise list of goals that is not overly complex and that is achievable.
Yeah, I think you do. One thing I'd point out, there's a couple of links in the chat, and one of them is Richard Everly talking about how you can use Advantage to advance as a referee. And it's a pretty good little video. So you might want to look that up online or click on the link.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I'll jump in as well too, is that I know working with some other referees too, it can be very difficult, I think, to think about what goals are out there and what things we can actually do as referees to kind of improve our experience or improve our ability to referee. I just wanted to commend Scott as well too, because these are three things that are clearly within our control, and it is something that we as referees can do to, again, improve our experience. And so, and just to add on to the communication rapport piece, I've had the privilege to work with Derek Summers a lot. He is a MLR referee, probably the USA's top referee right now. And that's always a big part of his game plan. This is the communication rapport. So he really makes sure that he tries to look up the rosters ahead of time, make sure he knows the players' names, and so that way he kind of sets that relationship off on like a really good and respectful note. And again, with the knowledge that, maybe sometimes the call goes wrong, maybe sometimes the goal is not to be someone's best friend, but going towards a higher value of kind of respect and honor. I think that is something that I think is a really strong and positive goal. So maybe I will pause here, and then I also have another slide that I can bring up as well, because this is a another exercise that we on the national team do, or the high performance referee group do, in terms of how to figure out what our goals are not only just for the season, but I think kind of our career moving forward. So maybe some folks have seen this kind of template before. This is a template for a SWOT analysis. So it is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And this is a exercise where you go and you kind of note down and you write down um, based on like the four prompts that are up there. And then this can be something that's really helpful to use based on like reflection and introspection about how, again, how can I get those goals? So like when I did this activity at the beginning of the season, I felt really good on like my fitness. I have an ability to run. I've came shred up playing. So that's just something that I felt really confident about. My weaknesses is sometimes I don't think I have a great presence on the field. I'm a smaller guy, never played in the front row, and I kind of get the sense that people are like, all right, especially at higher level rugbies, is like this guy doesn't know what he's doing. So that presence, opportunities. I'm young. I really like rugby. I have a strong background. I'm really interested in this. And then threats for me was I'm privileged. I have a lot going on. I recently got married. I have a job that I like, and so my time for rugby, I think, has kind of decreased a little bit and is kind of narrowed a bit. Um, and so taking all of that as a kind of set of like introspection, reflection, I was really able to kind of come up with my goals in a way in which I can prioritize them for that. And so just quickly, one of the goals that I had this year was to really improve my communication and my presence on the field. Because again, that's something that I think I identified was important to me on the field and also someone who does a bit of public speaking in my day-to-day job. So is how can I, again, have that presence on the field? How can I feel prepared when I'm about to go speak to players? How do I, again, have the right tone? And that's something that I've really been working on this year to, again, increase my internal satisfaction with refereeing and to help keep me motivated into the game. So I think all three of us have, I think, had a chance to share, and I know we're getting closer to time. Um, so I will pause and then see if we have any questions from the audience before we move on to our next piece. All right. I think I have a question for David. So, David, you mentioned that you have a lot of, I think, experience making goals in programmatic management. Um, how long out should we be making our goals, and how many goals should we be thinking of when we make goals?
That's a great question because there's a place in life for a goal for the week, right? Something short term, something that's important. You want to make sure that you get to that goal. There's some other goals that might be big, but you're not going to get there overnight. And so having a long lead, like I ran a campaign to convert to digital broadcasting when I was leading not one, but two different public TV stations. So I had to do it twice. And it takes years to do that transition. And just the fundraising alone is a multi-year proposition. So you've got to plot it out in chunks because if you try to do all of it at once, you're never going to get there. So it has to be doable. You can break those long-term goals down into some short-term goals. So I'm not a big fan of saying in 3 years I'm going to do this and here's my measurement. I think you're better off with bite-sized chunks. So maybe you say, I'm going to get the first $1 million that I need in my capital campaign, and I'm going to do that within the next 6 months. I'm going to do that by calling on 30 people of means. I'm going to take my board chair with me, and he's going to join me for half of those calls. We're going to ask for a total of 5 million with the idea that if we ask for five, we'll probably end up with at least the 1 million that we need to hit that interim goal. So I think that in rugby, if you have goals that are for this season, plenty long period. maybe somebody like you, Will, is thinking out in advance to 2 and 3 years down the road. For me, my rugby refereeing career is winding down, and I'm looking more at the giving back part of my career at this point in rugby. And so my goals are less aggressive than they once were, and they're probably more short term.
Yeah. And then just to, I think, add on to that too, the way I've set my goals for this season is again, I think hitting on a general theme. And again, I think my theme this year is around presence. Is again, how can I have that better presence? How can I, again, have that polished up presence on the field? And so that is, I think, kind of my season overarching goal. That's how can I work towards that um, throughout the year. But for each game, I go in, I think, with my own specific plan and I think my own specific goals. Because again, um, having to me to be excellent, to have this presence, you could break it down into a whole bunch of different elements. How can I communicate with the front row? How am I going to do that front row chat? If I have to give a card, how am I giving the card? If I see something a little bit on the field, how can I just have that brief conversation with the captain, with the player? Can I crack a joke? And so one of the things is again I've done is thought about all these different elements, and then for each game I try to just go and do no more than three things. And so like this week too is how can I get the escalation process right? And that was my goal, as well as just some other kind of more minor aspects. So again, I think just wanting to recap too about